Hi, and welcome to my first video. Today I'd like to discuss the value of doing yoga. What does that have to do with the title of this video? As David Carradine's teacher said in the Kung Fu TV series, "Patience, grasshopper, and all will be revealed." Yoga can best be described as the ninja of athletic endeavors. Why? Because of all the crazy poses? No. And just for the record, you do not have to be able to do any of these poses when practicing yoga. I just wanted to make sure you're still paying attention. Okay, back to the ninja-ness of yoga. Ninjas are known for their stealth, right? And what happens when you do yoga is that you get more than you bargained for. And I mean this in the most positive way. You might be thinking about doing yoga, or have chosen to do yoga for better flexibility, muscle tone and strength, releasing tension, losing weight, increased energy. Well, the list can go on and on. And these are great reasons. Really, really great. Feeling good in your body is priceless. But then the ninja-ness happens. At some point, you will notice something else changes besides your body. You might notice better ability to pay attention and mentally focus. You might become more calm and less likely to feel stressed and fly off the handle. You might feel happier, finding and experiencing joy in everyday moments. And when that happens, you have just experienced yoga ninja-ness. So what does this have to do with crystal blue persuasion? Again, grasshopper, have patience. One day I was contemplating how much better my life is with yoga. And I had been reading The Tree of Yoga by B.K.S. Iyengar, one of the yoga greats. He wrote that each asana or pose has an exact geometrical and architectural shape. When you look at a particular pose, you can definitely see this. But it begs the question, why is this an important concept? From my own practice, I had a tremendous experience, which I will share with you in a few minutes, but I want to build my case here for you. The more I pondered those words, geometrical and architectural shape, the more I got to thinking about the framework for our body, namely, our bones. Now it seems pretty obvious that the bones are the framework for our body. Muscles attach to two or more bones, and when the muscle contracts, the bones move closer together, and in that way we get movement. Anatomy 101, right? The next line of thought was, okay, bones function as structure, or in the words of Iyengar, architecture. And bones are for movement. But what are they? Bones are strong because they are made of a crystalline structure containing calcium, phosphorus, and other elements in a regular arrangement of atoms. Besides making them incredibly hard, what I found interesting about the crystalline structure is that it's a crystalline structure. Let's talk about crystals for a moment. While the precious and semi-precious crystals are known for their beauty, crystals have many uses. Crystals can store memory. As lasers become smaller and smaller, the amount of information that can be etched on a crystal staggers the mind. Crystals can transmit information. If you want to know the geeky science term for it, it is piezoelectricity. Quartz crystals are known for their ability to vibrate at a particular rate when compressed or have electricity applied. An example of using this vibration to do something would be our current quartz watches. In a similar manner, crystals can conduct heat and light. When the crystals are arranged in a certain way, the light, heat, or vibration can be directed. I'm not anywhere near an expert on this subject. I just did a little research to make sure that the following concept that I'm going to talk about had some scientific support. So if you take the regularized arrangement of a crystal and apply a force to it, something will happen, such as the emission of a red light. Okay, are we good? That's the end of the hard science talk. Circling back to Iyengar's statement that yoga poses have a certain geometry and architecture, think about the body in a particular pose, something such as triangle. Imagine the weight of the body compressing the leg bones, and the crystals in the bone now sending a directed signal up the leg due to that compression. Do you see how each of these directed signals might converge at a certain point? Now there is a second concept I want to weave in. For some, this might be a familiar concept, and others completely new. In the yogic tradition, there are thought to be subtle energy centers at certain points in the human body. These are called chakras. If you aren't familiar with them, this might sound a little woo, but stay here with me. Subtle or spiritual energy is acknowledged in many cultures and traditions. In Chinese medicine, the subtle energy is called qi and flows through channels called meridians. Acupuncture is based on this concept. Tibetan Buddhism calls this energy qi and sees this energy moving within channels as well. In Indian Vedic tradition, the subtle or spiritual energy is prana, and the channels are called nadis. Ayurvedic medicine is based on their understanding of prana. Other groups, such as the ancient Greeks, the Sufis, and American Indians, speak of subtle energy as part of their system of beliefs as well. The esoteric branch of Judaism, called Kabbalah, calls these energy centers sephirotes, which means emanations from the Creator which descend into denser or more material forms. And their spiritual work is to ascend up what they call the tree of life. Christians speak of the spiritual energy as the Holy Spirit, calling it the Comforter, and symbolize it with the descending dove. While the laundry list of religions and traditions that believe in some form of spiritual or subtle energy might not completely convince you of this veracity on the surface, it is certainly interesting that the concept of subtle energy and their nodal points, which I'm labeling chakras, sprang up in diverse cultures thousands of years ago and persist to this day. So what are these nodal points, these chakras? In Sanskrit, chakra means wheel. They were called that because of the spinning motion that was sensed by seekers, meditators, and gurus of old. A lot can be said about the chakras, but to boil it down, the chakras are understood to translate the subtle energy into a more physical world sense. This communication can go both ways. For instance, this chart describes a physical world endocrine gland that is associated with each chakra. An example is the thymus gland, which is responsible for setting up the immune system in our body. Its physical location is by the heart, and therefore associated with the heart, or anahata chakra. Each chakra can also be associated with particular organs or organ systems. So the heart chakra relates to the heart and lungs, while the solar plexus chakra relates to digestive system and metabolism. Musical tones, colors, and symbols are also associated with each chakra, such as red for the base chakra that sits at the bottom of the tailbone. Chakras have other associations as well. Emotional, mental, or psychological interactions for a person. As you might already know or have guessed, the heart chakra deals with feelings of love, kindness, and compassion. The solar plexus with confidence, vitality, and willpower, while the throat chakra correlates to the ability to communicate and to speak or live one's truth. There are many aspects of chakras. This isn't a comprehensive explanation by any means. I just wanted to give you the basic idea so we can move forward with my own personal story of what yoga did for me, and perhaps inspire you to further seeking as well. One more concept needs to be covered, and that is marrying the idea of chakras with moving, physical, and subtle energy. In our example of triangle pose, I postulated that compression of the crystalline bone structure can direct physical energy up the legs. Likewise, the subtle energy can flow as well, coming up the lower legs, through the thighs, toward the hips. It makes sense that the meeting place of these energies is the base chakra, seen here as the red circle. The base chakra has to do with a person feeling safe and secure in their environment and throughout their life. It also has to do with feeling grounded, stable, and balanced. So doing a pose such as triangle may help to assist a person in those particular aspects of life. Now here is my story. A number of years ago, I was at a yoga workshop at Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York. Here, we were holding each pose in a sequence for a prolonged period of time. On the second day, we were working on camel pose. As you can see, it's a pretty intense pose. In this back bend, we are asking the spine to flex as fully as possible. The lower or lumbar area can bend quite a bit. Likewise, the neck can as well, but we hold it up so as not to hyperflex it. The thoracic area, or mid to upper back, doesn't flex nearly as much. That's just how our bodies are built. Add to that our tendency to hunch over computers and phones, slouch in our seats, and basically not stand up straight, tends to train our body to be even less flexible. It's understandable that getting a bend in the thoracic area of our spine can be difficult. Also, from an emotional, psychological standpoint, we hunch over to protect our heart from pain and misery. So it can feel uncomfortable or risky to do back bends. So here I was doing camel, when all of a sudden images started flooding my mind, and I felt what could only be described as an emotional explosion happening in my heart. It was so sudden and so intense that I flew out of the pose and started weeping. What had happened was my heart chakra had opened. My first, shall we say, spiritual experience in yoga. At the time, I didn't know that that is what happened. All I knew was that I felt raw and open. Frankly, I was a bit bewildered. But then I started getting messages. No, not God speaking out loud to me, but it seemed as if everywhere I looked, there were messages about forgiveness. For instance, I happened to turn on Oprah Winfrey, back when she had her show on a major network, and the subject of her show? The benefits of forgiveness. The next day, driving to work, a billboard that just the day before I could have sworn had something else on it, there was a message about forgiveness. Then I went to the drugstore. While standing in line, there was this round rack of books. I glanced at it, and the first title to catch my eye, The Healing Power of Forgiveness. Good grief. I might be dense, but even I detected a theme. You see, what I didn't want to face was that I was holding on to past hurts, resentments, and betrayals. Some were very understandable, one could argue, but they were causing my heart to ache and robbing me of my joy. And then one day when I was alone in my house, I was washing my hands at the bathroom sink. I glanced up into the mirror and was shocked at my reflection. In repose, my face looked awful. My mouth was turned down, the skin sagging into frown lines, eyes dull. I looked harder, barely believing how terrible I appeared. It occurred to me that this was my future, the face of a bitter old woman. And that was the final straw. My inner ugliness was showing on the outside. I realized I didn't want to turn into that reflected image. I started on the path of finding forgiveness in my heart, forgiveness toward others, and forgiveness of myself. How that was done will be the subject of a different video at another time, but I truly think that it began with yoga. With opening the energy within my heart, I was then able to receive the messages that Great Spirit had for me. And those messages were telling me how to heal my heart. I sincerely hope that by sharing my story, that this has inspired you as well to explore the path of yoga. A note of caution here. Ustrasana, or camel pose, is a peak pose and should be done only after you have warmed the body up with other poses. And even then, taking care to move into the pose one step at a time, using modifications to keep your back safe. If you are new to yoga, working toward camel pose is most safely done with an experienced yoga teacher. Many back bends are heart openers, and the most gentle way to do a back bend is in giving your body support with props. As a reminder, it is always a good idea to do a counter pose to give yourself a release from the back bend. Child's pose is good for that. In any case, taking the pose to form the geometry and architecture can bring your crystalline bone structure into a space that allows the physical and subtle energy to move and open your heart. May this be found in your practice when you are ready. As I was putting together this video, the song Crystal Blue Persuasion kept playing in my mind. According to songwriter Tommy James of the Shondells, the inspiration came from the Bible, which described a vision of a new heaven and earth, a beautiful place made of crystals and gold, a place in which there was no more sorrow, everyone living in peace and brotherhood. The lyrics go something like this. Look over yonder, what do you see? The sun is a-risin', most definitely. A new day is coming, people are changing. Ain't it beautiful? Crystal blue persuasion. Better get ready to see the light. Love is the answer, and that's all right. So don't give up now, so easy to find. Just look to your soul and open your mind.